Hello there, everyone. Welcome once again to Rediscovering Your Passion and Purpose with Patty. And I am your host, Patty Stuhlin. And as I keep mentioning, and I know that I sound like a broken record, but God blesses me in so many ways. And one of those ways that he is doing that is with these incredible guests that have been coming my way and coming forward wanting to share their stories. And today is no exception to that. This person is definitely another gift from God. This week's guest is Elizabeth Meigs. She is an overcomer and a fighter who knows her purpose is to inspire, provide hope, and encourage those who are going through the toughest challenge of their lives to not give up. Elizabeth understands what it's like to go through challenges. She was born and raised in a small rural town in southeast Kansas where her family raised horses. She was an outdoorsy girl who loved fishing and riding her horse. Her dreams and goals were coming true when her world was turned upside down in a car accident 1 week into her freshman year of high school. Discover effective strategies to overcome life's challenges from someone who has been there. By sharing her own experiences, this mission-driven individual has helped countless others to find hope and resilience in difficult times. Helping others to find solutions of hope and strength is a great joy for Elizabeth. She is eternally grateful that God has continued to open doors to new opportunities for her to help others using her talents and experiences in ways she never dreamed or imagined. Elizabeth, welcome to the show. I am excited to have you here today.
Thank you, Patty. I'm very excited to be here, and I feel so blessed to have this opportunity for me to be able to share a little piece of my story with your audience in the hopes that they can find hope and be inspired to keep going despite life's difficulties.
Well, I'll tell you what, ever since you and I had our initial phone call together, you and your story have stayed with me over, I think that was over a week and a half ago. And it's truly, everyone, those of you listening and watching on YouTube, you will discover over this time with Elizabeth that on those days where you're feeling a little bit down or you're not feeling very good, after you hear Elizabeth's story, you just think about her and everything that she has overcome, and it will right away, it'll perk you up and it'll make you so grateful for what you are able to do and what life brings your way. With that said, Elizabeth, I don't want my audience to have to wait any longer to hear your incredible story. So with that said, would you please share your incredible story with us all, please?
Yes, I was a beautiful 14-year-old girl. I was very popular. I played every sport. I was a cheerleader. Everyone wanted to be my friend, and life was so easy. I was a singer-songwriter, had been performing and singing since the age of 7. In fact, the spring of my 8th grade year, my voice teacher, who I had been working with since I was 7, saw my gifts and my talents, and she believed in me. She knew that the sky was the limit with my talents and my gifts. So she had arranged for me to be in a recording studio to cut a demo tape. I was so excited with plans of moving to Nashville to pursue my singing as soon as I graduated high school. But then, 1 week into my freshman year of high school, my world was completely turned upside down. We were traveling to the movies when all of a sudden we were struck from behind. This sent our vehicle into a tailspin, which then proceeded into a barrel roll multiple times until we finally landed in the field on the opposite side of the highway. With every roll, my head was at the point of impact. EMTs arrived on the scene and I had to be cut from the vehicle. I then had to be resuscitated multiple times at the scene in order to get me stable enough to be transported to the nearest rural hospital. My brain was swelling rapidly because with every roll, my head was at the point of impact.
Mm.
The doctors and the medical team at the rural hospital just they weren't equipped to be able to take care of all of my extensive medical needs. So my parents arrived at the hospital, got to see me briefly as they were taking me to the helicopter to be life flighted to the nearest trauma center an hour and a half away by car. At the trauma center, my parents and my brother and sister-in-law would receive a very dim prognosis. The neurologist basically gave me less than a 25% survival rate. They said, call all your family, get them here. The goodbyes were inevitable, very small chance of survival. They told my parents that I would need to be placed in a drug-induced coma to give my brain the best chances of healing and my body the best chance of survival. I would remain in this coma for 3 weeks with very small chance of survival because my brain began to swell just 24 hours in. Doctor said that the likelihood of me getting through this would be very small.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to stop just for a second because, I mean, I know as a freshman in high school and being a teacher for all those years, and freshman was a big part of who I taught. I mean, it's like the world is your oyster, even though you're back to the bottom of the totem pole as far as seniors or the whoop-de-doo. Still, I mean, looking forward to all of these incredible things that people have talked about they want for you in your future, what you want for your future, and literally just going to the movies in the blink of an eye, your entire world has not only changed for you, but for the other people in your car and for your family and your friends. I mean, from this point forward, the life that you knew does not exist anymore on so many levels. I mean, I know we hear stuff like this, but I think what's so incredible with you telling your story is you are truly bringing to life for all of us this experience, and for each one of us to be grateful and thankful that each day, how we started, we usually end it in bed, still in one piece, still with our regular thoughts and stuff ahead of us. With that, please continue to tell your story.
I would finally come out of my coma right at 3 weeks. The ventilator was able to be removed at 2.5 weeks. But I was essentially reduced to that of an infant. I couldn't even sit up on the edge of the bed by myself. I had to rely on someone to help me with absolutely everything.
Mm.
At this point, I had not realized how different my life was going to be. I
Yeah,
still had
when you came out of the coma, did you remember anything about the accident or any of that stuff? So you're not, so when you come out, you're really not sure where you are or what has happened.
right. I have no memory of the accident at all.
Okay.
I I have no idea how where I'm at, none of that stuff.
Okay.
Um, I had to rely on someone to help me with absolutely everything for weeks. The following week after I come out of my coma, and that fourth week after the accident, they would get me up in a recliner sitting up by my bed. I would sit up for 30 minutes and then I would basically sleep the rest of the day because I fatigued so quickly.
Did
It
you
was
did you
the
rec
therapist.
did you recognize your family or friends?
Yes, I
Okay.
didn't know who my family was, who my
Okay.
friends were. I couldn't speak. I would answer questions by squeezing my right hand or blinking my left eye,
Okay.
but I had to relearn how to do everything. It would be 43 days before I was able to stand on my own 2 feet.
Wow. Mm,
And then it was not by any means independent. It was therapists on each side of me holding me up to keep me from falling to the floor.
mm,
It
wow.
would be another week or two before I was finally able to make a few steps in the parallel bars with the wheelchair right behind me.
Mm.
How much do we take for granted every day?
Oh, yes.
Being able to walk to the refrigerator to get a glass of milk.
Well,
I couldn't.
well, speaking of that, just the other day, I'm adjusting some stuff under the levels underneath my motorhome. And when I go to get back up, I felt like I slightly tweaked my knee. And just in the next 24 hours of just having my knee tweaked a little bit, I mean, that was I mean, that was not fun. So I cannot, my imagination cannot even go to the level of what you're talking about. I mean, it's just, wow, life altering, as you said.
Yes, I would remain in the intensive rehab, uh, be transferred to a subacute rehab at the 4 week mark, where I would spend the next 2.5 weeks. I then still required a walker for being up on my feet to keep my balance, still required a wheelchair for long distances. So I wasn't ready to get back into school by no means.
Mm-mm.
I would go home for that weekend after discharge, and then mom and I would get back in the vehicle on Sunday afternoon to head back up to Kansas City, Missouri for me to start a 7 week intensive rehab outpatient therapy program where we would live in the Ronald McDonald House Monday through Friday.
Mm,
I would still get the 3 to 4 hours of intensive rehab during the day and then work with a school teacher in between to get me caught back up on my schoolwork.
mhm. So
Still having.
with your schoolwork, I mean, was there a certain grade level that you were still at that you knew, or was it like starting from scratch also like with your walking and talking?
No, I picked right back up with my freshman homework,
Okay.
getting caught back up into my freshman. I luckily still had all the memory of how to do math. Now reading would be a lot more challenging, me being able to retain what I read.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom would have to read so much to me. We would have to hire tutors to help me to get caught back up with my algebra and stay caught up with geometry moving forward because math was so much more challenging.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
so the 7 week rehab program would be what I needed to get me back to walking without a walker, no longer needing the wheelchair for long distances. But it was through all of this that I was just concentrating on my rehab recovery, having no idea that the most challenging struggles that I would ever face were going to come about once I was back home full time and in school.
Wow. Um, I mean, I guess at this point, for those of us that are listening, and I know something that's just come to my mind is, I mean, looking for small blessings that that at least with your memory, I mean, knowledge wise, uh, that you kept all of that. And for somebody whose math is my worst subject, I mean, I totally relate about, I mean, even more so in your situation of not being able to, I mean, having struggles with the math part because I didn't even have any of this. And I know how difficult math was for me and for many others out there. So, so you're on your way of getting back on your feet, no pun intended, of course. How is your family and your friends through this process going? Because I know when we talked on the phone, you had noticed a change, especially with people who were once your friends. What was happening with a lot of them and the new you kind of thing that was coming out of this ordeal?
I was so very blessed for my family support and their love. They were beside me the entire way. My mom, during the intensive rehab 7-week program, was by my side 100% of the time. Her and I grew very close. She was always such an advocate for me.
Mm-hmm.
My friends would come and visit me when I was in the hospital. Once when I was in the coma and in the intensive rehab, and then once again when I was in subacute rehab, to give me a hug and let me know that they were all there for me. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't until I got back into school after Thanksgiving break, after missing the first 3 months of school of my freshman year, that I realized I'm no longer that independent and beautiful 14-year-old girl
Mm-hmm.
who had friends that had didn't have to deal with judgment.
Mm-hmm.
My left side was affected because I suffered a right frontal lobe brain injury. So my left arm would be drawn up due to muscle tone. I would be unable to extend it for years. I would be unable to open my hand on my left side without prying my fingers open for years.
Mm.
So I dealt with a lot of judgment.
Mm-hmm.
People would see something physically wrong with me, and if they didn't know me before the car accident, they would decide that I wasn't worth their time.
Mm-hmm.
That hurt because before everybody saw my beauty, they saw my gifts, they saw my talents, and they wanted to be in my life.
Right.
My
Right.
friends, they were still able to play the sports we love. They were still working their part time jobs. They still had a life. I had to focus on physical and occupational therapy every day of the week after school. I had to focus on my homework, working on homework every night, every weekend. My friends, what the way I saw it, my friends didn't have any time for me, nor did they seem to care if I was around.
Mm-hmm.
They, although, had no idea what I was dealing with on the
Right.
inside, what was
Right.
going through my head. This was what I perceived.
Mm-hmm. At that, being a freshman, that I mean, you're right in that tough adolescent time, and and most teenagers don't even know what they want to do the next weekend. They just know that they have a social calendar they want to keep, and as long as everything is status quo, life is great. But for you're almost on a daily survival mode of just trying to get yourself back to somewhat normal, if that could ever be achieved again. So you're going through adolescence on a completely different path than the rest of your friends.
I had to grow up fast. I didn't have the normal teenage life.
Through
I
through going
had to be
through all your therapies and stuff like that, were there any other teenagers that you could connect with, or no, that was not something that you found?
not really. I grew up in a rural town. When I was in the intensive 7-week therapy program, there was a couple other teenagers there who had suffered a traumatic brain injury, but unfortunately, not all brain injury affects you the same way.
Right.
And both of them didn't really have, they acted more like children. Like
Mm, yes.
they were just affected differently.
Right.
So,
Right.
no, I couldn't really connect with them.
Mm-hmm.
And then once back home in the rural area, I really didn't have anyone that I could connect with that had any idea what I was going through.
Yeah. So
So
I should also ask, at this point, Do you have any kind of a religious foundation? I mean, do your family do they believe in God? Do you believe in God? Do you go to church? So did you have that spiritual foundation?
I grew up a Methodist. I had done my confirmation in the spring of my 8th grade year. So yes, I grew up going to church. My relationship with God, I believed in God. I knew He was real. But honestly, until I was taken down the path of recovering from this injury, I had no idea that God was always with me. I
Right.
would come home from school multiple days a week after I got back into school and tell my parents I should have died. I wish I was dead and I want myself. But God
Can you
was the
real
voice in my heart saying, I have a
real
plan for
quick,
you.
Elizabeth? Real quick, I know on my end, I don't know about on your end, but I want you to repeat what you just said because I know on my end it kind of went in and out. So could you repeat what you had conveyed to your family?
Yes. Multiple times a week, once back in school, I would come home from school and tell my parents I should have died. I wish I was dead and I want to kill myself. But what got me through these moments was the voice in my heart saying, I have a plan for you. You can't give up. You have to keep going. And I knew the voice of God because it brought me an overwhelming amount of comfort and peace. And I knew it to be nothing but truth. So every night before I went to bed, no matter what had happened that day, I would go to bed with a thankful and grateful heart, and I would thank God for my blessings, thank Him for my life, and I asked Him to lead me and help me to make the right choices so that I could help those that He placed in my path. I was going through, I wouldn't wish on a single soul. I even prayed for everyone in this world because I wouldn't have wished it on anyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, no,
I'm so very,
and that's a good lesson for all of us because I think on a daily basis the majority of us go to bed at night and we don't think about the things that we need and should be grateful and thankful for. We just take them for granted, and I think that when we remember before we go to bed each night to think about the things, whether you believe in a higher power or not, I think it's a matter of just expressing your gratitude for gosh, having a roof over your head or a bed to sleep in or even a pillow to lay your head upon. I know one of my guests that I had back in November earlier, she's homeless, and sleeping on cement benches, but through all of that she is grateful for her life. She is grateful for the things that she has. So I think that is a wonderful reminder to us that we do need to be grateful for the things that we are able to do and not concentrate so heavily on either what we don't have or what we can't do or what we believe we can't do.
exactly. If I'm gonna say right now, I have had so many struggles that has left me broken, shattered in pieces, crying, asking God, why did you do this to me? Even though I knew He didn't do this to me, that things happen in this world
Mhm.
that are just circumstances.
Right.
It's what you take from these circumstances that makes you who you are. Looking back on the last 23 years of my life, all of my struggles, all of my difficulties, everything that I've had to endure, would I change any of it? No, because every struggle, every difficulty, every obstacle that I have faced, I have been able to learn from. And
Wow.
it's helped to mold me into the person that you see before you today.
Whoa, that's powerful, Elizabeth. I mean, what a testimony right there. Aside from anything else that you have said and you're going to say right there, that's powerful.
I am thankful for every situation in my life. I'm asking you the next time that you're faced with something that you just can't see your way through, you can't see yourself rising above and making it through, instead of reacting, take a step back and ask yourself, what do I need to learn from this that will make me stronger when I face future situations like this?
So were you able to on time with your class?
Yes, I got through high school by the grace of God, graduating with my class.
Mm.
Um, at that point, I had no clue what God's plan was for me. I knew I had
Now
one.
what?
I knew I had one, but I had no idea what it was. So I graduated with my class, went on to community college, trying to figure out what I would major in for 2 years. I then transferred to university with a degree, majoring in a degree for rehab counseling. But after 2.5 years of studying this, we lost my dad unexpectedly in a car
Mm.
accident.
Oh my gosh.
And I realized after we lost him that this degree is not what God had planned for me, because I realized in the state of Kansas what I could do with this degree was drug and alcohol abuse. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to work with traumatic brain injury because
Mm.
I knew that would be how I could best help
Mm-hmm.
and how my experiences could best be used.
Right.
So I struggled through this point. I dropped out of my classes, got a little bit down and depressed again,
Mm-hmm.
but God continued to make a way.
Yep.
And I found occupational therapy
Mm.
and decided, okay, I will major in occupational therapy. So I went to school for the next, let's see, I started with the associate's degree in occupational therapy in 2010, and I would graduate with that degree in 2012, where when I walked into my patient's room who had suffered a stroke, they would tell me, I can't do this. The fact that I could sit across from them and share with them my story, on the day I would discharge them home, they would give me a hug and say, Beth, I couldn't have gotten through this without you. Thank you.
They
Because
had
I
no
was
idea.
able to give
They had
them
no
hope.
idea who they were dealing with, did they? They didn't know that when you
That
arrived,
one of my
they
patients,
go ahead.
I walked into his room and he was down because he had fallen and broken a bone and was just grumpier than all get out. The physical therapist had warned me about him. Well, the fact that I could go in there and say, well, we're here to get you back on your feet. I kind of gave him some tough love and shared with him my story. I left the room that day not really getting much of an occupational therapy treatment out of him. But the next day, when I entered his room, he apologized to me and
Ooh.
he started working. The physical therapist later that day says, Beth, what in the world did you say to him? Because now he's working with me just fine and going after. It turns out that gentleman, him and his wife, later volunteered at one of the nursing homes that I would start working at. And every time he would see me, he would come up to me and give me a hug and whether it's a broken leg or broken hip, whatever it is. and you're used to being independent, but you're thrown for a loop, you can get down, you can get lost,
Mhm.
have trouble finding your way, and just being open to the possibilities and learning from the challenges that you face and keep moving forward with a positive outlook and a positive attitude, that makes a world of difference. That can get you through pretty much anything.
Very such wise words. I mean, and you are the epitome of the type of person who I want on my podcast, because as you know from our talking, it's about taking those challenges and obstacles, and I will have to say your challenges and obstacles have been to the extreme. But for you to be able to sit here and say those words that you just said, I mean, if that does not touch a person's soul who is watching right now or listening right now, I do not know what you would need to hear to inspire you, to motivate you, to know that wherever you are right now in the deeps of your darkness or whatever hole you think that you are in, to know that that Elizabeth right now can tell you through everything that she has been through, everything that she has gone through, that she still has those down days, but she doesn't stay there, and she is motivating each and every one of us to get back up again and keep moving forward. Thank you so much on that reminder. I mean, Elizabeth, your story is absolutely incredible.
It comes down to you have to make the choice to keep going. Like I was talking about the positivity, what you focus on grows. So
Mhm.
when all you are seeing negative, if that's what you dwell on, that's all you're ever going to see is negative.
Right.
But when you can take a step back and look at what's the positive that can actually come from that negative, and you can learn to shift it, that's when you find freedom.
Yeah, that's one of the things I know that I have mentioned here before is, it's okay to have your pity party. Don't pitch your tent there. And, my foundation, I call it, PMA, positive mental attitude. Does that mean that I am positive all the time? Positive Patty, as I said. No, it does not. What it does mean is that when those difficult times arise, those challenges and obstacles present themselves on my life's path, what I do is I take that and I try. I won't say try. I look for what is the best possible solution. Number one, what is it that I'm to learn from this, and how can I turn this bad thing into something worthwhile? That's what it means to be positive. Not that you're cheery and happy-go-lucky all the time, because that is not how life operates. But it is exactly what you just said. It's looking at that and twisting it, that negative thing, and twisting it into something that will eventually become something positive. And in so many ways, that's exactly what you have been doing over the, what did you just say, the last 23 years?
20 years, yes. And I am going to ask you, I know we all have a purpose. So whatever it is that you are struggling with today, I want you to think about, say, a year from now, once you make it through that struggle, who is it that you're going to be able to help that is in the same place that you currently are now? I want you to think about them. I have a heart to help. That's the heart that God gave me. And
Mm-hmm.
God gave me everything within myself to be able to learn how to overcome and rise above every obstacle I will ever face. No, it's not always going to be easy, but you can't give up. You can't give in, and you have to keep fighting. I know you have goals and dreams, just as I have, you deserve those goals and dreams. You are worthy of those goals and dreams. So you have to keep fighting. And I know you have everything within you to make them happen.
Amen to that, Elizabeth. So are you still doing occupational therapy, or are you doing other things now?
I am. I work a few days a week at a hospital while I am working on growing my inspirational speaking business,
Mhm,
my holistic wellness coaching business, and my motivational coaching business.
mhm,
These strategies that I have had to develop and learn to get me through the darkest days of my life, they're valuable strategies that I can help others to be able to develop, help them to be able to rely on and use daily to be able to learn to overcome. That's where my heart is.
mhm.
I want to be able to help people who are lost and feel like there's no way out to
Well,
keep
and
fighting.
through your programs, that's exactly what you are doing, and I mean that is very inspiring. Um, what would you say over your life? Uh, it has been the best piece of advice that anyone has ever given you.
Oh, wow. I wasn't expecting that question. Hmm. I'm going to say don't give up. Don't give
Mhm,
up. Keep fighting.
mhm,
Keep going.
mhm.
Um, Now I know that I was told that many times. I can't um right now think of specific people, but
No, but you
but I
know,
was continued to.
well, and it's just like you said, you've heard the voice of God telling you not to give up either, because he had
Right.
other plans for you. And I'm sure family and friends, and that those are very valuable words of advice, because without that will, you can have all the world telling you that, but it's got to resonate deep inside of you, because you have got to be willing to help yourself also before you can help other people. And it's okay to
Exactly.
take care of ourselves. I mean, I know that on this journey that you've been on, that you had to spend a lot of time taking care of you and putting you number one, and you being your number one best advocate for yourself, for your health, mentally, physically, and spiritually. And sometimes we do have to do that. Once we do that and we get ourselves in a good spot, then we are ready to be able to go forward and help others.
Exactly. And I will tell you, self-care is the number one most important thing. It hasn't always been easy. Um, when you're in a relationship where you are constantly told that everything is your fault or you are to blame for everything that's going on wrong, um, you tend to internalize it
Mm-hmm.
and believe that it's true. I was just very blessed that God's voice was always much louder and
Mm-hmm.
much bigger and brought me a whole lot more comfort and peace than the voice that was telling me that everything was my fault.
Mm-hmm.
So I continued to turn to God and He protected me and He brought me through it.
So does that mean that you're no longer in that relationship?
Yes, God God knew that He was gonna have to protect me.
Mm-hmm.
So while when I was in that relationship, couldn't see what I had been enduring, my friends and my family could. God opened my eyes by using someone from my past that He had used multiple times to always get me where I needed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And luckily, He is consistent and persistent. That as I reflect now back on the last 6 to 8 months, I see that He tried to show me multiple signs
Mhm.
that I didn't see, but
Mhm.
it took him using that one person, and finally my eyes were opened.
Mhm. Um, do you think that that was because so badly you wanted to be in a relationship that it was difficult to open your eyes to that, or what, or looking back, do you find that there was something else that kept you holding on to that not very good or healthy relationship?
Well, had I not got married and moved to Dallas, I would not be where I am right
Mhm.
now. Other business owners who introduced me to a gentleman who was doing a 2-day speaking seminar that would get me my professional demo reel for my website, get me professional pictures of me speaking from a stage, that would get me set up as an authority figure and
Mhm.
inspirational speaker.
Mhm.
After that 2-day seminar, everyone in the audience, I got a standing ovation,
Uh-huh.
and this was just from a 5-minute clip of me sharing my story, and someone told me, "Beth, your story needs to go nationwide today. You can help so many people." It was amazing. The end of that week, um, my old friend that I hadn't seen in over 3.5 years, hadn't been close to in over 4, reached out asking my best friend about me.
Mhm.
I He was no longer on social media, so I had no way of finding out what was going on with him. So I was concerned and started praying for him. Then on seminar, who told me that I I was selected to get his scholarship for his 4-month coaching program to
Mm.
help me to be able to learn how to get paid speaking opportunities, to format my talk so that I could come up with more, and just be able to figure out the best way to earn money from speaking and sharing my story with more people.
Mhm.
That evening, I made dinner. My husband came home from work. After dinner, I shared with him the news. His response to me was, "Until I see in writing there are no fees involved in this, you are not allowed to do it."
Mm.
I started to cry, and he said, as he glared at me in a nasty tone, "Why are you crying?" And I said, "Because this is my purpose. This is what God has called me to do. This is who I am. God is opening the doors for me to do it, and you're telling me I can't." And he came back with, "I'm just watching out for us. This is a businessman. He's only out to take from you whatever he can get you from you. He doesn't want to help you." But I knew better. I had met many business owners over the course of the previous 2 years that wanted to help me in any way they could. If they had the knowledge or the connection to be able to help me, they would do it. I knew in that moment that God brought the other person back into my life. He was the first person that I had ever met that had truly seen me,
Mhm.
um, since the car accident in 2017. When I met him, he actually shared with me he saw the beautiful person I was, and I had no doubt.
Mhm.
Um, I realized in that moment that my husband didn't see me, he didn't see my value, and that he never would. And this was God's way of protecting me and letting me know that I needed to get back to Waco, Texas, because that's honestly where I belonged.
Mhm.
My church family in Waco, when I met them in 2017, that was honestly the first time that I had ever found a place where I truly felt like I belonged since the
Wow.
car accident.
Mhm.
Because I had people who valued me, who saw my heart and what I was doing in this world, and
Mhm.
they supported me, they encouraged me, and I hadn't had that.
Well,
I had a life outside of work.
blessings to God once again for bringing that special someone back into your life to be able to open up your eyes to the possibilities of a new and exciting future for you. I mean, because what you're doing now is through occupational therapy, you are definitely helping many, many people. But now with you going out and doing motivational speaking and working with people with life coaching, you're and doing the podcast, of course, you're going to be reaching so many people that, I mean, your love, your caring, your inspiration, talk about a ripple effect. I mean, there is no end to the amount of people that you are going to be able to positively affect. So excellent to you. What would you say right now, where you are in your life? What are you passionate about personally and professionally?
What am I personally and professionally? Professionally, I just love being able to share my story and inspiring and providing hope to people who feel like they can't keep going.
Hmm.
That is the number one thing that I'm the most passionate about. Like you said, with my regular 9 to 5 as occupational therapy, sure, I could help people, but getting up on a stage, writing my book, creating this course, to be able to teach the strategies that I had to learn, that's how I can truly help the most people. So
Hmm.
many more people than I ever could have dreamt or imagined when I was that 14, 15-year-old girl that just wished so bad that I hadn't survived that car accident.
Right. Yeah. Excellent. What would you say that your purpose is right now, personally and professionally?
Continue to inspire and just share my story. There's so many people. I started speaking on the stage at the church that I found back in 2017, and so many people, after I would share my testimony, would come up to me and say, Beth, I lost all hope, but your story gives me hope. Thank you. One night I had a woman come up to me and say, Beth, I wasn't going to come to church tonight, but something was telling me that I needed to be here. I know now that it was God. I needed to hear your story. It gives me so much hope. Thank
Hmm.
you. That is my purpose.
Hmm. And you are doing it, girl. I'll tell you, you are living that purpose. What would you say is your superpower?
Being able to see the best in people, being able to see their potential, even if they don't see it themselves,
Mm-hmm.
if they don't believe that they have what it takes to pull themselves out, I know they do.
Mm-hmm.
I know they do. I had it, and I know multiple people that have what it takes inside of them because God has given me the ability to see that within them.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to know that no matter what you're going through, no matter what you're dealing with, if you don't believe in yourself, I want you to hear my voice in your head whenever you hear, I can't, or I'm an idiot, or I'm stupid. Why did I make that mistake? I want you to shut those voices down. And I want you to hear my voice saying, I believe in you. I know you can do this. Keep fighting. Don't ever stop.
That, my friends, that's a superpower right there. That, yes, indeed, that is a superpower. So, how would you say you are living your best life, or as I say, living your best dash?
Being able to wake up every morning positively with an open mind, open to new opportunities, going through my day open to whatever the Lord puts before me. So many times, he answers in his time. And I'm going to tell you that his time is so much more perfect than anything we would want in our time, because we're never ready for it in our time, but his timing is perfect. So I would be praying for something, then all of a sudden I'd be going through life maybe a year later, and all of a sudden the door would open for me, and I was like, "Hey God, thank you. I see there's the answer that I've been looking for a year or 2 years or however many months." Just being able to walk through each day with an open mind, open heart, and seeing all the possibilities. That's how I'm living my best life.
And you are definitely doing that in so many ways. I mean, it's incredible. Do you have any final thoughts or words of wisdom that you would like to share with our audience?
I would like to share with you my acronym that I created that can help you to be able to find your peace, which will help you to find freedom. My acronym is PEACE, and it stands for positivity, empowerment, awareness, and choice, which all leads to enjoyment. Once you're able to take life and live positively, you're going to feel empowered. Once you're aware of how everything that you're being surrounded by, how that affects you, and you can begin to make the right choices to take the next step and keep going, you're going to find enjoyment. And that's how you're going to find your peace and your freedom to live your best life. I am helping people with my 30-day course to teach them the strategies that I had to develop and learn to be able to find my peace and my freedom. If you know of an organization that would benefit from having a motivational speaker such as myself, go to elizabethinspires.com and book a call with me to talk about speaking. You can also find under the resources tab the link to the EI method that is going to help you to be able to find peace and freedom.
Can you repeat one more time, Elizabeth, what PEACE stands for?
Positivity, empowerment, awareness, choices, and enjoyment.
Well, right there, that sums up everything about you, everything that you stand for, everything that you believe in, and what a powerful message for each and every one of us on how to start our day, to live our day, and end our day. And I cannot thank you enough, Elizabeth, for sharing your story and for being my guest today. On so many levels, you inspire me. And I know long after this podcast, our time here, your voice will carry me through many days forward. And I'm just so grateful to you being here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me, and that means the world to me. I feel so blessed to have met you, Patty, and have the opportunity for you to interview me and help spread my message.
As you heard Elizabeth mention about her podcast or her .coms and all that good stuff on getting in touch with her, whether you want to have her come and speak to your group or your church or whatever organization you may be a part of, or maybe you want to look into talking to her about being your life coach if you happen to be looking at that, or you just want to have a chat with her. Those links that she gave, those are going to be in the description. So whether you're watching us on YouTube right now or you're on one of the 10 podcast formats, go back after you finish listening to this podcast episode and look at the description, and you're going to see those sites, those links that Elizabeth mentioned. All you need to do is go to the link, hit that link, and it's going to put you in direct access to her. And I know many of you are going to want to do that after hearing all that she has been through, all that she has come through, and all she continues to do to not only make her part of the world a better place, but spreading that out, that joy, that love, that motivation, that inspiration, and spreading that out in a world that greatly right now could desperately use it. So again, Elizabeth, you are a blessing. I am blessed in my life that God brought you my direction, that I could have you on this podcast to share your story. Once again, thank you very, very much.
You.
So for all of you out there listening, please remember, I would love for you to subscribe and follow this podcast, invite your friends and family, especially after you hear each one of these motivational and inspirational stories that of real people. These are not made up in any way, shape, or form. These are real people living real lives and overcoming those real challenges and obstacles that life is bringing their way. So please don't ever miss a week. And if you do, you can always go back to the replay. But once again, if you are inspired by Elizabeth and any of the guests that we have, make sure that you review it, add a comment on there. I make sure that when I get these comments, I pass it on to our guests so they know too of the impact that they are making in your life and maybe the lives of your family and friends. And while you're at it, don't forget to check out my website at www.pathwayswithpatty.org. And you can sign up for a Zoom chat with me, and maybe you'd like to be a guest on my podcast. You can connect with me through my website, and you can also get my Pathway to a New Beginning roadmap. So until we meet again, continue to live your best dash and know that life's an adventure, and I want you to enjoy the journey because your life matters. Thank you for joining us today, and may God bless you all.